All right, YouTube, Repo Man 64. Ah, it's been a minute. A lot of stuff's going on. We keep watching. A YouTube channel just came out, and I've seen this several times, and it really disturbs me. And it comes out and says, I no longer believe in the pre-tribulational rapture because of this, and that. And it always confuses me, but it defines the times that we are in. Uh, in that, um, well, let me close this window. I don't know what that was. In that, the closer we get to the end, it'll be a defining moment for many people who actually were not in this for trying to figure out when the rapture would occur. I want to reassure you, I will never be not pre-tribulation rapture, pre-seals. We'll be in heaven to see the seals open. I will never change that stance ever until I see the Antichrist be revealed. Satan is working really hard. Satan, you're a Christian. You're going through your life, and bad things happen, and you say, "Oh, the devil's after me." Hmm, he might be able to mess up these broadcasts a little bit, but he can't make you do something that you didn't want to do. He can't make you go and commit a sin. That's something you did. Otherwise, he'd be guilty of your sin, which he is not. We are. That's what the 613 laws were for, to show us that there is no way on earth that we could keep those commandments. There's no way. And throughout the entire Bible, we learn that something or someone has to pay for those sins. Has to. They're not going to go unanswered, overlooked, or forgotten about unless they are covered by the blood of Jesus. And that's plain and simple. Now, with the pre tribulational rapture, how could you spend years talking about a pre tribulational rapture and then out of nowhere turn your back on it? Have you seen the Antichrist be revealed? Have you seen the seas and the waves roaring yet? Until those two things take place, um, there would never be a reason to leave that idea unless you were never a part of that group in the first place, that you were just parroting something somebody else said and you didn't actually believe it. If you actually believe it, nothing will stand in between you and a pre tribulational rapture. If you were on the fence about it, remember, Satan owns that fence. You think you're on one side or the other. I'll just stay here on the fence. No, Satan owns the fence. You got to choose God and jump into that pasture. The fence and the other pasture is owned by Satan. So I don't know if you've seen it. A guy has come forward to claim that he is the Messiah, that he has lineage, his mother from the Western world, us, and his father from the Eastern world, Arab and Jewish. And he believes, and I guess, I guess there's going to be somebody who steps up, right, and says, I want that title. I want to do that. You're going to hell. The lake, not hell. There's a confusion between what hell is and the lake of fire. Let's say it like it is. To the lake of fire, where you will burn for all eternity. So why would you want to jump up and say that? Number one. Number two, he is not. He's not coming with signs and wonders. He's not calling down fire from heaven. He's not doing anything. So I've seen people on Facebook. I don't do a lot on Facebook, but I will. I have joined certain groups to see what they're saying, and I will go through there. And they presented this guy Abu Dab or something like that. He's like 6'2", handsome guy, uh, but he doesn't fit the bill. He just doesn't fit the bill of the Antichrist. The Antichrist is going to come very charismatic. This guy is not. This guy is going to come very wealthy. This guy is not. As a matter of fact, they have images from him from previous where he was just a fighter, ISIS fighter or something. I don't know, but so he's not the Antichrist. So a lot of people were going, well, now that the Antichrist is revealed, and that's what Satan is trying. That's where Satan comes in. He tries to get into your head. He tries to convince you that, and I would imagine that this channel is running with this concept. I don't know. I will not unsubscribe from a channel that believes in a post um, tribulational or mid trib, or I won't unsubscribe from them because I feel like this information that we pre-trib put out is stuff that they need um, during the tribulation. And so that's why I will only unsubscribe from somebody if they turn directly against Israel. There's this guy. I stopped listening to him years ago when he just flat turned against Israel right after Israel, those kids at that concert were attacked and taken hostage. What part of that is us being able to turn against Israel? Oh, it's Israel's fault that that happened. What? I can't, even if there was a game afoot, and it's like this. This is what I say. You want to say the Jews are evil? Go ahead. They are, but so are you. And they need Jesus just as much as you do. And turning your backs on them and going up against them is strictly forbid in the Bible. So that being said, this guy that's come up is not the Antichrist. He is not the one that everybody's looking for. He can't be. You know why? The pre-tribulational rapture has not happened yet. So no, he cannot and will not be revealed. Now, Satan, he's he's a wise character. He's got this guy stepping up and going, yeah, just tell them that. He's not. He's nobody. He is not the Antichrist. And so Satan does this type of stuff to cause certain people to say, well, I was kind of on the fence about it, but you know what? There's no pre-tribulational rapture. And what happens when that happens is a defining moment. There will not be one single person left here that can say, they might say, Lord, Lord, didn't I do this in your name? And that they might say it, but they won't be able to say it because God will clearly point out to them how they were on the fence the entire time. They didn't jump into it wholeheartedly and they didn't quite believe. They just kind of went along with the crowd. And so this right now, what I'm seeing is a separation of the bride, the pre-tribulational bride, and the tribulational saints who half-heartedly believe in this. They kind of want to hedge their bet. I kind of half-heartedly believe in that. I'm under attack here in the secret broadcast cave. Um, Half-heartedly, I believe in that, but I don't want. I'm going to kind of hedge my bet. And once I see the Antichrist, I'm going to know those fools are wrong. And as soon as some guy jumps up and says, "I'm the Antichrist," or "I'm the Messiah," he's not going to say he's the Antichrist, and he says he's the Messiah. Once that happens, they'll jump right over. They'll jump right over because they didn't have a firm foundation on what we know, and what we know is we will be standing in heaven. It's as clear as a bell. It's written in Revelation. We will be standing there to see the first seal opened. There's no question about that. Um, then in seal 6, we see this group of people show up. They're crying. They're messed up. Well, they're not messed up anymore because they've been fixed by going to heaven. But they've been through it. They've been through part of that tribulation. They will finally. They are not the bride. They are the servants. They will finally say, "Oh, Lord, Lord, didn't I?" And the Lord said, "Depart from me, for I knew you not." And they will, at that point, kneel down and wholeheartedly accept. And so many people, they outnumber us 100 to 1. They're everywhere. Our channels are tiny by comparison to dogs riding skateboards. Millions of subscribers of people watching dogs riding skateboards. But when it comes to a pre-tribulational rapture, our channels are, by comparison, very small. And so we'll sit up here day after day, week after week, bring you our best guesstimate of when the rapture is going to occur. Do we know for certain yet? No. But I think that, I don't think I know. This is a test. This is a test. Um, Are you going to keep looking forward to the next high watch date that the rapture might occur? Or are you going to say in your heart, I'm beginning to think this thing isn't even going to happen? And I will tell you, if you haven't seen an Antichrist or the Messiah come to power and call down fire from heaven and perform all kinds of signs and wonders, until you see that, we are correct. Wholeheartedly, 100%, we are correct. It is a pre-tribulational rapture. Satan is going to bring you, excuse me, Satan is going to bring you um, a lot of and that's what we see in the Bible. It says he'll tell you to look over here, look over there. No, look over here. Don't look. It's not. It is not the Messiah. It is not the Antichrist that is here. So let me get into a little bit of the pictures. I have a few things I want to point out towards these three high rapture watch days that I'm looking at. Am I stating the rapture has to happen by this? No, but I have determined or figured out that this is the Jubilee year. And I said since March 16th, when we, you know, thought that might be it, that the entire year is the Jubilee year. This whole year is a Jubilee year. This Jubilee year will end on March 16th of 2026. Uh, I think personally that the Antichrist must come to power and reveal himself by September the 24th, the eighth year of the Revelation 12 sign. The date, the Day of Atonement. That's the Day of Atonement. And so, with that being said, I don't think that we're very far away from the rapture. Knowing the exact day, I think that God wants you to have blind faith. Just have blind faith that this could happen at any moment. That we could be sitting here talking and all of a sudden the button will be pushed, or all of a sudden an earthquake will happen. Have you noticed that mankind is creating a lot of drama as we see God himself creating drama? It's almost like God makes a huge earthquake, but then Satan tries to cover it up with, India is attacking Pakistan now, or vice versa. Where did that come from? Ukraine and Russia. Look at all this stuff going on. We're only supposed to look at Israel. We're not supposed to care about those other places. Don't get me wrong. Pray for those people. It's a horrible, horrible thing that they're involved with as a cover up for the natural things that the birth pangs that the birth pangs of the earth, what the earth is going through. I don't think has anything to do with Satan trying to cover it up by all these wars. Even though the Bible does tell us there will be wars and rumors of wars, it's telling us. I think that that is Satan's way of covering up, missing the point of what we're supposed to be looking at. So let me get into the pictures. Now, I built a timeline. You guys know that. I've never stated that I 100% guarantee my timeline's right. I've never done that, but I will tell you this. Whatever timeline, I love how people will build a little snippet of a timeline, but then not run it out for the entire year. How do you make a snippet of a month or two, but then not pay attention to where the rest of the stuff must land in sequence based on the sun comes up? You got to give it a date. That's why the moon calendars, the sliver moon or the full moon, will never work. They just won't work. The moon rotates every 354 days. There's 364, 365 on the Gregorian solar calendar. On the stellar calendar, there's 364. There is no conceivable way that a moon calendar will ever work. And it doesn't, except for every 19 years, it actually lands correctly in spring, and then another variation thereof every 19 years, not 19 years later, but another 19-year segment, it lands correctly. We saw that in 2023. Remember, um, it would have been nice. I must admit that it would have been nice that when October the 7th happened in Israel, and that for me was Shemini Atzeret, the last day of Tabernacles, because Jesus came to tabernacle with us. This is the day Jesus is circumcised and named. For me, it would have been nice that the calendar didn't line up, because then I could say, see, it landed perfectly on my calendar, not on the Hebrew calendar. And guess what? That year happened to be one of the 19 years that it actually lined up. So, I'm not Rosh, trumpets, atonement, and now atonement back in 2017 with the Revelation 12 sign did not line up with the timeline. It lined up where they were calling it Tishri 1. But if you actually go look, it's off by, I think, a day or two. So, and that's why they tried to, I think Tishri 1 was September the 22nd, and they were trying to say that the Revelation 12 sign happened on September the 23rd. But it actually happened on September the 24th. The moon's not under her feet until September the 24th at midnight in Israel. So, that being said, it would have been very nice. But again, if we can't have that kind of confirmation, we can't have it. And the reason we can't have it is because while maybe we'll pick out 1,000 dates per year, 365, we'll pick out all these days and we'll do all this math and we'll give little snippets of timelines and all this stuff and say, this looks like it, this looks like it. At the end of the day, I don't know which feast day to associate with the rapture. They are all perfect rapture scenarios. Every single one of them is a perfect rapture scenario. So I don't truly know. I liked the Day of Equal Parts. That was perfect. Or Rosh Hashanah, March 17th. I like that. I liked the day Jesus went to the cross or the day he rose with all the dead. I said, this is it. This could be it. This is the good. They're all perfect. And it's intentional. It's intentional. Why is it intentional? Again, it's proof. When somebody falls away, they never fell away because they were never there in the first place. They weren't all in. It's like the rich man leaving and he left money with three different guys, and one guy doubled it, another guy made some money, and another guy just buried the money in the sand. He didn't do anything. So that's what it's all about. Um, it's about staying strong. I think there's actually a verse that says that stay strong, don't waver. The world is after you. They're trying to convince you that this is all crazy. How could they possibly do that when the Antichrist hasn't been revealed yet? Until that day, it's a pre-tribulational rapture. He appears and throws fire down from heaven. That'll be a sad day for me because I won't be saying, Lord, Lord, didn't I? I'll be like, oh, I missed it somewhere. But has anybody seen a rapture? Is there any historical events depicting a bunch of people disappearing off the face of the earth? A loud trumpet in the air, four horsemen of the apocalypse riding around, two witnesses blowing fire. We haven't seen any of that. So how could you ever leave the pre-tribulational rapture? Because you were never in it in the first place. It was either, and that's one of the reasons I won't charge money. It's not that people that do charge money do wonderful things with it, help others, and they're great. I started mine out years ago saying I will never accept a dime, and I never have. I've never also made a video dogging somebody out for making money because the Bible clearly says you can, and it's okay. And then later on accepted money from somebody and then just quietly stopped talking about it because now that I've accepted money, I probably shouldn't talk about something else. And if somebody sent me money, the only thing I would know how to do with it would be to send it to Chris over there, Global Rapture Watchers, so that he can get those Bibles out. Apparently, he's got, I laugh every time. That poor man. Can you guys send me a Bible or two? They sent him a truckload. They sent him a truckload. Him and the guy at the post office have become best friends. I don't know who helps this guy. Who helps him wrap all those Bibles and get them sent out? But there's people apparently in his comment sections like, I'd like a Bible. I'd like a Bible. Around the world, he's sending Bibles. I'm so proud of that guy. I mean, that's incredible. So yeah, go donate money to Chris. Go buy him a cup of coffee. That's fantastic because he has Bob Barber. Go buy him a cup of. I don't know how his thing works, but he has a huge thing where he helps people on the other side of the planet with Bibles and he feeds them and stuff. It's the most amazing thing to watch. I'm not set up like that. You send me money, I'm gonna buy a car. You don't want to send me, but the only thing I would know what to do with it is send it to Chris. So send your money to Chris. But what I'm saying is this particular person dogged everybody out for accepting money, says he wouldn't, got a huge check from somebody, then said, well, maybe it's okay. That's what I'm talking about. You either stand firm, which I have since day one. I will never accept a dime from anyone. You want to give money, go give it to Chris. But I will stand firm on this hill that I will never accept it. And it's not because I wouldn't know to give it to Chris or give it to Bob Barber. I would know that. It's because I don't want to muddy the waters of what I do here and all I do here. And for somebody to get on there and say, this costs me a fortune, it literally doesn't. I'm just sitting here talking to my laptop. It doesn't cost me anything. An internet connection that costs me, I don't know, what is it, $80 a month, which everybody's in there on their cell phones and watching TV right now. So it's not specifically for this. So it doesn't cost me anything to do this. These earbuds were $85. Somebody please send me $85 so I can. No, you see what I'm saying? So no, it doesn't cost me anything to do this, and I'm proud to be able to do this. And so with that being said, let me get a drink. My throat is scratchy. My rapture water is wearing off. I got to rewrite that. It's lemonade. It's lemons. This kidney stone is still stuck. Your prayers for my kidney stone, it's still stuck. But I want to thank you, and I forget about this type of stuff. I am not a prayer warrior. I'll admit that right up front. Although I've watched God do things in my life that just blew my mind, uh, I'm still not the prayer warrior. I'm not envious, and I'm happy for you, but I wish I had the prayer life some of you have. It's amazing to watch the absolute prayer life that some of you have. But that being said, I did ask you for prayers for my wife. She wore a heart monitor for a week. My wife, our anniversary is coming up here in 2 days. I got to buy her like a flower or something, right? Something. Anyway, heart monitor came back. She has something called regurg, but it's a very tiny amount. And I believe all your prayers worked. Her heart is fine. They're not as concerned about her heart any longer. So, yay, good news. Thanks, prayer warriors. I'm gonna say you did that, and I appreciate that. All right, so let me get on with this. Timeline. Timelines. It's what I've always worked on. It's what I do. And if you give me a little snippet of a timeline and say, oh, April 29th is the day Jesus rose. All right, April 29th. He actually rose April the 3rd. 26 days later is what you're saying. That means the sun comes up and you give it a date, the sun comes up again and you give it a date. And if you do that honestly, all I can say is go build it. Go build the timeline. I'm not even asking you to spend 30 years doing it because I had a lot of failed timelines before I found this one. What I am asking you is if you make this little snippet of a little period of time and say, oh, yeah, the resurrection's on April the 29th, and I say it's April the 3rd, you're 26 days off. That means if we just go forward, the flood didn't happen November the 1st, it happened November the 23rd. And from the flood happening on November the 31st, you must count because it's biblical. It's in the Bible. You must do it. Bible says 150 days after the flood began, the waters began to recede. That day is the cross. Do the math from November to the 23rd. Is it 23rd? Yeah, November the 23rd, 150 days and see where you land. Is it even in the realm of when it could happen? And the answer is no. Mathematically, no. If you're going to give a snippet of time, extrapolate out through the entire year, even up to the following year, and say, this simply doesn't work. That's how you build a timeline. Every single event that I found in the Bible, and trust me, there's been a couple that stumped me. The 6 months of John the Baptist's mother, I was like, that's in the 6th month? That stumped me because it couldn't be. It wouldn't fit. It didn't fit. Couldn't be in the 6th month because I knew Jesus was born on September the 30th. How could it happen in the 6th month? And just read back a little bit. It was the 5th month. She hid herself for 5 months. And in the 6th month is when Mary came to visit and John leapt in the womb. She was 6 months pregnant. It wasn't the 6th month of the year. It's the same thing that I showed you. And this one stuck me for weeks. It did. I had to work on it until I realized that God did not tell John the Baptist to go baptize Jesus in the 29th year of, I forget what king it was. It's in there. It's in the pictures. I'll show you in a second. It was 29 AD when God told him to go do something, but it wasn't to go baptize Jesus. That's not the year Jesus got baptized. Jesus was baptized in the year 26 AD. What happened, King Xerxes? No, I'll have to look at. I have a picture of it. Um, what God told John the Baptist to do at that moment was go tell King Herod what a dirty sinner he is for messing with his brother's wife and her daughter, his niece. And as a result, he was thrown into prison and got his head chopped off. That's the end of the story of John the Baptist. Then the next verse says, and Jesus came and was baptized by John the Baptist. Thought he was dead. Thought it was the end of his story. Thought it was 29 AD. Did God tell John the Baptist to go baptize Jesus? No. He told John the Baptist to go tell this, oh, it's King Herod. Go tell King Herod what a dirty, rotten sinner you are. You're messing around with your brother's wife and your brother's wife's daughter, your niece. And as a result of doing what he was told to do by God, he was arrested, thrown in jail, and his head was served to that niece on a silver platter. So, and then the very next verse is Jesus being baptized. The reason John the Baptist became famous, uh, he was baptizing for 6 months. He was already out there doing it. But what made him famous is when Jesus came to him to become baptized, and they saw and they heard the Lord speak from heaven and say, "This is my son in whom I'm well pleased." They saw the dove fly down like the Holy Spirit and light up on Jesus. That's what they saw. 3 years later, go to the verse just before it, in 29 AD, God spoke to John the Baptist and said, go tell Herod what a dirty, rotten rat he is, and he dies for it. They're out of order. It's that simple. It can't be understood any other way. So, like I said, I've had things that stump me, but in the end, proper study, proper understanding will show you. So, the same thing I say to anybody who says that the 29th of April is Resurrection Day, do the math, build a timeline. I mean, you can discredit this timeline, and that's fine. You can say the head of the year started on 4 days later on the equinox. I tried to comment to Ken Johnson, but you can't speak to the guy. You have to pay him money in order to make comments on his YouTube. And I will not pay anyone money to make comments on the YouTube. Apparently there's a website that you can go to. I tried to go there. Somebody in my Discord was telling me about it, and I couldn't navigate through it. There's an app you can download, which I downloaded the app. You can't navigate through it. There is no way for me to communicate with Dr. Ken Johnson to let him know that he is inaccurate about the head of the year. It is not the equinox. If it were the equinox, then Jesus would have been conceived on December the 26th. No, December the 29th. He would have been conceived 4 days later. December the 29th means nothing. When Mary arrived at Elizabeth and John left in the womb, it would have taken 7 days for that egg to travel down the tube and attach to the uterine wall. That happened on New Year's Day. Everything on the Gregorian calendar lines up with the Hebrew calendar when understood that the head of the year is on March 17th. I can't personally see it any other way. And all I ask is anybody who does see it any other way, build a timeline. Show me when Jesus was conceived. And if you say December the 29th, that makes no sense. That makes no sense. Why not December the 25th, Christmas Day, when he was conceived? Because 40 weeks after that date is September the 30th. That is Tabernacle. And 5 days prior to that is when Jesus was baptized. Yeah, Jesus was baptized by John the Baptist. That's the same date as the Revelation 12 sign. So if it didn't make sense, October 7th, Israel was attacked on Shemini Atzeret. It's right there on the timeline. I'm not trying to state anything that my timeline's right and everyone else is wrong. Ken Johnson's wrong. I'm not doing that. I'm just saying, do the math. Just go to the dollar store like I did, buy a current calendar, write down the day you think is the head of the year. Write it down. You think it's something to do with that set it and forget it first sliver of the moon idea? Do that. Write that down. Extrapolate it out. And you'll notice that your dates are starting to fall further and further away. I'm even hearing people using the full moon now. Like nobody uses the full moon. That literally is not even biblical. I showed you that Chodesh means month. It does not mean moon. Never has. So we go forward on this, like I said, by a calendar. Just do it yourself. It's that simple. Just do it yourself. I've done this for a long time and threw them all away. I have so many calculations I had to throw away because they did not line up. All right. Now I want to get into the pictures. So let's share. Let's look at this. Let me move my aging face up out of the way. All right. Like I said, where are we at right now? We are on April I think it's 26th, right? Because my anniversary is on the 28th. Yeah, April the 26th. On April the 30th at sunset, it will become May Day. When I count back 183 days, the second month and 17th day will be May Day. It's something happens here on May Day. There's too much evidence. This is the date. It's a mirror date to Noah's Ark. Exactly 183 days out, because there's two segments of 182. The 183rd day would start the second 182-day segment. So May 1st is a very high watch day because of the mirror of Noah's Ark, because on April the 30th at sunset, it will be second Passover. Remember, we see Jesus on the 14th, the Bible tells us he goes to the cross. However, we see the Jews leave Egypt on Nisan 15. They did all that stuff, but they didn't leave until that night. Jesus didn't actually begin his 3 days and 3 nights until sunset. He died at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, but it wasn't until sunset that he began his 72 hours. And I showed you, and I have pictures I can show you again, that Jesus was actually in the tomb or in the grave for 84 hours. He rose at 3 o'clock in the morning on Sunday, just prior to Mary showing up at the grave. When she walked in, she found the stuff folded. He reveals himself to her. She runs and tells them. They come running back. But then he meets them. I don't recall if he goes to the upper room on that moment and shows them, and they said, well, Thomas isn't here. Or they went to tell Thomas, and then Thomas said, until I touch, I have to go back and reread it. But ultimately, they meet him on the Emmaus Road. They bring him in to eat with them, and he literally disappears right in front of them. He did not perform the way, and this wave sheaf offering is not to be confused with the 2 loaf offering, the 2 loaf where they wave the 2 loaves of bread. This is not to be confused with that. This is a wave sheaf. He is a fistful of barley that Jesus has. He ascends right there in front of them. He disappears right there in front of them. The day is well spent. He does not perform the wave sheaf offering on the day that he rose. He performs it the Sabbath after, just like we read in Leviticus 23. It's abundantly clear. People are like, yeah, the Sabbath after was a Sunday. That's the day Jesus rose. No, that's where the count begins. The count begins on the day Jesus rose. You count 7 days, and then he says, from the Sabbath after, not the Sabbath before, the Sabbath after. It is Sunday. The Sabbath after is 7 days away. It is now Saturday. You count 49 days. Even unto the next day will be a Sunday, and it will be 50 days, just like it says in Leviticus 23. You count. Jesus rises. He defeats death. You count those 7 days right here. And then You count 50 days. 50 days later is, and I don't know, I know the confusion between Shavuot and Pentecost. Rather than calling this Shavuot or Feast of Weeks, we will call it Ascension Day. From the wave sheaf offering, right here, Thomas in the upper room. Now remember, Jesus rises here, defeats death. 7 days later, he appears to Thomas in the upper room. 7 days later is when he does the wave sheaf offering. Then 50 days brings you to Ascension Day. We'll call it Ascension Day rather than Shavuot because there's so much confusion around this. This is the day Jesus ascended. He told them, I got to go. In a few days, not in much time at all, I'm going to send the Comforter to you, but before that can happen, I have to leave. And he leaves right here on Ascension Day. The two wave loaf things happen on Pentecost. Is that Shavuot? I don't know. Is this Feast of Weeks? I believe so. I think Shavuot and Ascension Day are synonymous, and I think Pentecost and Feast of Weeks is synonymous. And what do we see at Feast of Weeks? We count from, it Bible says it, I think it's Leviticus 25 this time. I don't recall exactly where, but we see the same word or verbiage being used, the same type of words being used, but this time it says, you shall count from when you did the wave sheaf offering, the Sabbath after. It says it again. So we have to give it these 7 days. What happened on the Sabbath after? Even unto the next day, you shall count 50 days. You land here. This is when the Holy Spirit is given. Pentecost is the day the Holy Spirit is given. This is when the Feast of Weeks is, I believe. So from the wave sheaf offering, Jesus rises. A week later, he performs a wave sheaf offering. He sees Thomas in the upper room. The Bible says, count you from that day of the wave sheaf offering 7 days from the Sabbath after, then 50, right there. Now, from Jesus rising, you count from his rising from the Sabbath after and 50 days, and you'll land here. And then when you do all the math of everything Jesus did, he was in the grave for 3 days. He spent 7 days, disappeared, and then he sees Thomas in the upper room. Then he disappears for another 7 days and appears on the shore with bread and fish. And they pull in 153 fish, and then he disappears for another 3 days, and he begins his walk with them for 40 days. Is 3773, which apparently somebody did a whole video on that. It's very significant. 40 days, and we wind up here on Ascension Day. Jesus ascended 7 days, not 10. 10 means judgment. 7 means completion. It was not 10 days, like the Catholics have said. And I've had a few discussions in the comments say it was 10 days. I'm like, okay, show me some math. Well, I can't do that, but my pastor said, I'm like, I bet he did. I bet he did. It's not 10 days between Shavuot or Ascension Day and Pentecost. Just it's 7. It's 7 days. It is a Sunday, and it is a Sunday. So it is 7 days. All right. Now let me keep going. Oh, and like I said before, if you're making the comment that here around April 30th, April 29th is actually the day Jesus rises, you're off by like 26 days, 25 days. Anytime you come down here and add it to something that Tishri 1, September the 15th, add 25 days to that. You'll be at October the 8th. I don't know if that sounds right to anybody. You keep going down here. The flood happens on October the 31st. Now it'll happen on November the 23rd. We won't see Hanukkah on December at all. We'll see it in January the 8th. It makes no sense. Hanukkah never happens in January. But again, the sun comes up. You have to give it a date. If you want to assume a date, if you want to use the stars and say this is where the sun was in relation to these stars, and stars never move. You're right, they don't, but the sun does. The sun moves 1 month every 2,000 years. What we saw during Jesus' time, the sun was in Aries. It's no longer in Aries. It's called precession of the sun. It is now, and it's the story of God. It's the story of God from Gemini all the way through to Aquarius. The sun will go through Aquarius only if you start the year on March 17th. For those 1,000 years, it will just make it through that water during that 1,000-year millennium. It will just make it through that. That's God pouring out His Spirit on the planet. That's that perfect time, that perfect 1,000 years, as perfect as it can be until Satan is loose to deceive them again. So, like I said, just build a calendar. You can scoff at this. That's fine. It doesn't matter. But if you say, I think that it's this, and I say, why? Show me some math as to why. Well, I just think so. You're not really doing any biblical studying at all until you come down here to October the 6th plus 13 hours, sunset. Here we are. Look, it's 6 o'clock in the morning. When did Israel get attacked? October 7th at 6 o'clock. It's right there. It's always right there. This is Shemini Atzeretz. This is the last day of Tabernacles. Jesus was born on Tabernacles. And 8 days later, Jesus was named and circumcised on Shemini Atzeret, October the 7th. Jesus began his ministry. He was about 30 years old. There isn't a single verse that you can bring me that will contradict any of this. Elizabeth. Where's Elizabeth? Let's go down here. Mary conceives. Exactly 40 weeks later is September the 29th. I come back here. Jesus is born on September the 29th, plus 13 hours. At sunset, Jesus is born on September the 30th. If you say that Mary conceives here, she goes and travels to see her cousin Elizabeth. Mary travels 7 days to see her cousin Elizabeth. The egg attaches to the uterine wall on the seventh day. And John leaps in the womb. What day does he do that? I wonder what day that is. New Year's Day. How did that happen? I'm not saying that it was New Year's Day for them back there because it wasn't, but actually it was. The Julian calendar is this calendar identical to a T. There is no difference. It took them 1,582 years before they realized that the Julian calendar, right? They probably knew it earlier, but it took them 1,582 years to correct the mistake. They corrected the mistake by 10 days. Back in Jesus' day, December the 31st, in fact, was New Year's Eve because they were on the Julian calendar. When this calendar, the Julian and the Gregorian, currently are identical to when Jesus was here to right now, because the Gregorian calendar made up the difference so that it wouldn't be off by 10 days after 1,500 years. It literally takes, I think, 2,000 or 3,000 years for it to be off by one day, let alone 10. But this Gregorian calendar that we're on currently mirrors the Julian calendar that Jesus was on when he was here. Jesus was not even on the sliver moon calendar. Jesus was not on the Enochian calendar. Jesus was on the Julian calendar. And so when these events happened, they happened in real time from what we understand. October the 7th, Jesus was conceived on Christmas Day. What festival or feast do we have that never changes? It never changes. Tevet 10 will never not be December the 25th plus 18 hours. It's December the 25th. It will never not be that. However, if you follow the sliver moon, Tevet 10 will never fall on Christmas Day, hardly ever. I think it did this year. You see what I'm saying? So when building a timeline, you have to take all these things into account. Like I said before, I didn't want to build this timeline. I just wanted to take at everyone else's word who had built the timeline that they knew what they were doing, and they didn't. Some of them were very close, but they were wrong. So I did the math on this. I know creation began in 4003. You can tell me you think it began in 19 whatever just to compensate for these 35 years, but the 35 years are explainable. Yes, we went over the 6,000 years. There are 6 days of creation and 6,000 years, 120 jubilees is what everybody assumed. It said 120 years. It didn't say anything about jubilees. A jubilee cycle is actually 49 years. But It was 4,000 years exactly to Jesus' birth. He was the door. He's number 4. He was born exactly 4,000 years after creation. You can't change this date without changing this date or trying to say, well, yeah, he came, 35 years before that. You can't do that. There is no wiggle room when it comes to God's perfect timing. It is exactly 4,000 years. And then we have exactly 2,000 years from, excuse me, 25 AD to 2025. It just happens to work out to 2,000 years, and there's a lot of math in here to explain that number. However, from creation, 123 Jubilee cycles exactly lands us here in September of 2025. The rapture must occur before the Antichrist is revealed. It must. The closer we creep to September, the more nervous I get. But to date, I still haven't seen the Antichrist, so I'm still pre-trib. I will stay pre-trib until God tells me, depart from me, I knew you not. Now, we know creation was in 4003 BC because mathematically, when we go forward, we land at the year that Joshua entered in the promised land. And if we count from the year Joshua entered in the promised land to current, we're in 2025 again. We are in a period of time right now to cause doubt to those who are not actually looking forward to this, to those who are kind of on the fence about it, to those who will turn their back on what they already knew, who never actually believed in the first place. That's where we are right now. I showed you that 49 years from the flood. The flood happened on October the 31st. It is in just about every culture around the planet recognizes October the 31st or November the 1st, Dia de los Muertos, as a day that is synonymous with a horrific thing that happened on this planet. They all recognize it because those 8 people that were on that ark wrote down that date. And they knew that on Heshvan 17, which again, if you start your calendar, Heshvan 17 will land on October the 31st, November the 1st. If you start your year 4 days later, then the flood, Heshvan 17 must land on November the 4th or 5th, 4th, I think. It doesn't make sense. Any other timeline for me doesn't make sense. Now, if you subtract, remember I said 183, it's 182 stacked, but the 183rd day begins the next May Day. Very high watch day. May Day is a very high watch day. It is only a few days away. Could that be it? I don't know. I found 2 others. We'll look at them right now. We see this in John 4. It's getting to the point where I need glasses to see. Or I could just enlarge this. That might be easier for all of us. In John 4:35, say not ye, there, sorry about this. Say not ye, there are yet 4 months, and then cometh harvest. Behold, I say unto you, lift up your eyes, look up, and look on the fields, for they are white already. So something happens 4 months prior to the harvest that they were expecting to harvest 4 months later, but oops, wait a second. Something's ready 4 months earlier. 4 months earlier, from trumpets, what everybody says, no, the rapture's going to have, we're going to call this, we're not going to obey Exodus 12, and we're going to call this Rosh Hashanah and trumpets, not recognizing that God didn't even call this trumpets when it was called Rosh Hashanah. He moved Rosh Hashanah and then began calling this date trumpets later on. This date here is trumpets. It is not Rosh Hashanah. I'll say that till I'm blue in the face, but there will be those who will say, forget about Exodus 12. God doesn't change. God doesn't change. He's the same today, yesterday, and tomorrow. But he did move Rosh Hashanah. He moved it. Moving a date does not calculate to or indicate that God in any kind of way changed his character. That's silly to even make that statement out loud, honestly, but we hear it anyway. All right. 77 years old. They will be 77 years old. And one day on May 15th, and when I count back 4 months, I land on September the 14th. Sorry about that. Trumpets. When I count forward 4 months, I land on trumpets. I land on trumpets, which is at sunset on September the 14th, becomes September the 15th. It is exactly 4 months. Israel becomes, this is their first day of being 77, and 4 months later on September the 14th. So May the 14th, May the 15th is a very high watch day. I had somebody telling me, oh, this is Nissan 1. Will you please just do the math? Write me a calendar. Write it down. Go buy a dollar calendar at the dollar store and write down May 15th is Nissan 1, May 16th is Nissan 2, May 17th is Nissan 3, and just go on out. And I think that by the time you get down to Hanukkah and you think Hanukkah lands in February, maybe you'll realize that that's a silly statement. I don't know. To me, it is insane. This date, I asked many times, why here, Lord? This date means nothing, until I saw that 4 month verse. And I was like, oh, maybe that's what that means. So it's a very high watch day. May 1st, May Day, and May 15th is a very high watch day. I showed you this last time. The last sign that we are looking for in Luke, before you jump ship and say there's no pre-tribulational rapture, you've already gone through all of this stuff, and you're trying to jump ship, and the only thing you're waiting for, all of this has happened. This is us. This is Luke. This is the bride with perplexity. The sea and the waves roaring. That's all you're waiting for. When you see that, and the rapture occurs right here, right in 2025, when you see the rapture occur right here, then men's hearts will fail them for fear, because there's going to be a lot of people who said, yeah, I was pre-trib. Now I'm mid-trib. I don't think there is a pre-trib rapture. There is only one rapture, and that is pre-trib. The rest of them are gatherings. In heaven will be a place you got to die to get into. And we'll see you there in seal 6. You'll show up in seal 6 having died for the word of God, just like the Bible says. We associate that with getting your head cut off and denying Satan as your boss, but I don't believe that's what it means. I think that your hearts will fail you. I think that you'll starve to death. I think that the weather's going to get you. I think that the nuclear bomb's going to get you. I think that people who are searching for food items are going to shoot you and take yours. But I think also that the reason you won't shoot back is because you've given your heart to Jesus. You know that you know that the rapture just occurred and that it wasn't aliens, and you know that you're waiting for seal 6. And when you die, you'll appear in heaven. Sounds rough. Sounds rough. But I didn't write the Bible. That's just what it says. Luke 21. The only thing we're waiting for is the waves and seas roaring. Until you see that, once you see that, know that the rapture is about to occur. And I think that's going to occur after a huge earthquake. There are other passages that show slightly different variations, but the one thing we will not see, we are not going to see the tribulation. We are not going to see the sun darken, the moon not give her. When the sun goes dark, the moon won't give her light. And I got these people still saying, well, let's look for an eclipse that happened, and then we'll know what year Jesus was on the cross. The sun went out for 3 hours. It was not an eclipse. There is no eclipse that puts the sun out for 3 hours. God just blew the sun out like a candle. He blew it out like a candle, and in 3 hours he relit it. It's that simple. That was it. That's what happened. There was no, you're not going to be able to associate it with that. And then they'll take the Gregorian calendar and go back, for completely forgetting that it's the Julian calendar that started everything, completely forgetting that your birth date will land on a different day every year. It will never land on the same day. There's so much math involved in going back to just to your birth date to figure out what day you were born on, or going back 1,000 years, or going back 2,000 years, and trying to determine what day it is. You can't do it. It's not mathematically possible. The only mathematical possible way, if Julius Caesar had wanted a correct calendar, a correct Gregorian calendar to start his year off, on January 1st. All he had to do was in February, call February 29 days. That's all he had to do. And then every 4 years, call for a February 30th. And on February 28th, make it a Wednesday. And then on February the 29th, make it a Wednesday. And then every 4 years, there'll be 3 Wednesdays. That's the only way to keep the day of the week correct on every other day of the year throughout the year. You can't make that happen by simply looking. I'm going to scroll back on my phone. Hold on. Give me a second. Hold on. It's going to take a minute. I'll be back to 30 AD, 31 AD, or 32 AD here in a minute. Oh, look, it was a Wednesday. No, it won't work that way. It just won't work. It's not how that is literally that's no math. No, you can ask any mathematician, that just won't work. Mark, this is a sleepy church. They're going to see tribulation. They're going to see all this stuff. It's going to be scary. Their hearts will be failing for fear of the things that come on this earth. And then the Jew, what do the Jew have to watch out for? They have to watch out for somebody coming that tells them he is the Messiah. Believe it not. They'll see the bride taken. They won't be aware of the tribulation saint being taken, because they will have died during the tribulation. All right. I thought this might relate. Anybody who's in the army knows this. And if you could correct me in the comment section if I am inaccurate. It is my understanding that this guy, who's been in the army for 20 years, he's a sergeant major of the army. Now, I don't know if because his title has major in it, these all have major in it, if they are not required to stand up and salute a second lieutenant who's been in the army for a week. They've been in 20 years, he's been in a week. But I would associate this with the bride. The bride is the brass. The bride is the officers, the tribulation saints. If you go and tell somebody who is an enlisted ranks, yes, sir, no, sir, they'll tell you, don't call me sir, I work for a living. They'll tell you that. These are the tribulation saints. These are the messengers, the workers, as it were, and servants. Servants is the right word. We see that depiction of the tribulation saints, that they will serve. And is there any shame in being a sergeant major of the army? No. That guy worked 20 years to get to that. Is there any shame to being a second lieutenant outranking a sergeant major of the army, which is how I believe it works? Again, somebody could correct me if I'm wrong. Second lieutenant, first lieutenant, captain, and all these people have to salute these guys down here, because these guys are the bride. They are the head with Christ. This is the body. This is the head. If I've spoken inaccurately, forgive me, and please correct me in the comment section if I have not stated that correctly. All right. 2 Timothy 3:7. This, we have to discuss this. That guy that spent his entire time being pre-trib, and then at the end just gives up on pre-trib, makes a video saying, I no longer believe in pre-trib, I give up on it. And my problem with that is, how did you give up on it? Did you see the Antichrist be revealed? What triggered you to give up on it? It certainly wasn't something God did. It certainly wasn't something Satan did. This is coming directly from you and you alone. And yes, it irks me that this guy actually made a video. He should have quietly went away, but he didn't. He made a video. And so, yeah, it irks me that he made a video. Why? Because there might have been some other people who saw that video and said, you know what? And of course, like I said, if you're not in the pre-tribulational rapture state of mind, it will not be that difficult to get you to jump over the fence into a mid or post-trib rapture state of mind mentality. These people are ever learning and never able to come to the knowledge of the truth. They've spent years talking about it, but they didn't actually believe it. Now, as Jannes and Jambres withstood Moses, so do these also resist the truth. Men of corrupt minds reprobate concerning the faith, but they shall proceed no further, for their folly shall be manifest unto all men, as theirs also was. So, like I'm saying, his folly has been manifest. Can he come back now and say, "Oh, wait, I changed my mind. I'm not getting any more donations from free money from people. I changed my mind. I'm pre-trib again. Here's my PayPal account," or whatever he does. I don't even know if he accepts money. I'm not putting that off on him. I would try to in my own mind justify why he would do such a thing. Maybe there's more money in the mid and post trib. I don't even know if he accepts money. Like I said, to me, it seems to me that money with these people like this, and you have to be careful with people who actually do wonderful things with money. I have to quantify that with you and say there are people who do wonderful things with money, and I back them and I support them, and I'm proud of the work that they've done wholeheartedly. But then there are these people who are in this just for the money, and whatever side of the fence they need to be on to get more money is the side of the fence they'll jump on. And so as a result, was he ever pre-trib? I don't care if he made 10 years worth of pre-trib videos and then said he wasn't pre-trib. He was never pre-trib, because you don't get to walk away from that reality. You don't get to walk away and change your mind, because there's no such thing. What you know, you know. And so they appear to be ever learning, never able to come to the knowledge of truth. If he had defined it like the rest of us have in our minds, and we know it's pre-trib. Nothing can stop us from knowing it's pre-trib. The only thing that can stop us from believing in a pre-trib rapture is seeing the Antichrist be revealed. And since we haven't seen that, nothing is going to sway me from that ideal. That's what I'm always going to uh, believe. There will never be a time when I won't believe that. Let me see here. Oh, I only have one picture left. I guess I'll get to the last picture. What is this? Oh, maybe this is what I wanted to put. Oh, this is that. To every to every thing there is a season. I won't sing to you because I have a wonderful radio announcer voice, but I do not have a singing voice whatsoever. But yeah, this is that song. To everything, turn, turn. There's a time to hate, time for war, time for peace, time for love. At any rate, so yeah, I saw that, and I said, well, let me get on there and reassure everyone that that concept will never cross my mind, shouldn't cross yours. There shouldn't be no reason for it to, until, of course, the Antichrist is revealed. And since he hasn't, we don't even have to talk about it or think about it. And I just wanted to give you some encouragement on that fact that we're still steaming straight ahead. We're looking at May Day because it's a direct reflection of the day the flood started 6 months out. We're looking at May the 15th because it's 4 months from the trumpets, Feast of Trumpets. And we're looking at May 30th because it's Ascension Day. It took me a second to remember what it was, because it's Ascension Day. May 30th is Ascension Day. So 3 high watch days. Could it happen at any moment? Yes. Could my timeline not be? No, yeah, I don't know. I, I would have thrown it away. I promise you. I've made so many on the wall, and when they were wrong, or I found some math that I could not study out and figure out what it actually meant, I thrown away so many. And I can tell you that as much as this timeline's been attacked, I believe I'm onto something. You know, and if you're going to make a timeline, don't make a snippet. Go all out through the whole year. Let's see where you land. Then we can discuss it after that. And remember, every time the sun comes up, you've got to give it a name. You can't just do like the sliver moon people do, or the full moon people do, and just, yeah, we'll just forget about those 7 days. We'll just pretend like they didn't happen. Those 12 days that were off from last year to this year, it just moved around. We'll just, no, every time the sun comes up, you've got to give it a date, period. So anyway, hang in there, keep watching. If you were on the fence thinking that, maybe it is mid, maybe it is pre, you're not pre-trib. You just are not pre-trib. If you're on that fence looking at both sides going, If it's pre-trib, then let me look at that. If it's mid, you haven't made a clear decision yet. Make that clear decision. Pre-trib. That's what it is. Jesus is coming for a pre-tribulation bride to pull us out of here before anything bad happens, before any seal gets opened. You're seeing tribulations from Satan right now. You ain't seeing tribulations from God yet. You'd remember that one. You'll know what I'm talking about if you're here during the tribulation. You'll know exactly what I'm talking about. Talk about a rough period of time. You don't want to be here for that. So it is time in these last moments to make a clear choice. God is offering you a cup. He's offering you salvation in a cup. Do you take that cup like in the Galilean wedding and drink from it? Or do you say, I don't know. I can promise you that out of 100 people, one person has actually taken that cup, drank out of it, and wholeheartedly uh, fell head over heels in love with Jesus and cannot wait for his return. Just keep watching. We're almost there. Like, comment, share, and subscribe. Go to a quiet place by yourself. Nobody needs to know, and you don't need to tell anybody, and accept the Lord in your heart. That is in Matthew 6, 5, and 6. Couldn't remember it last time I had that, but Matthew 6, 5, and 6. Go read it. Go pray in a closet. It's a private moment between you and your Creator. Go in there and have a chat with Him and tell Him how you feel. Tell Him that you don't want to go through that time. Tell Him that you want Him to save you. And I promise you, and then ask Him, say, can you give me a little bit of a discernment so I can understand this stuff? That's how I started out. Quick story before I go. That's how I started out. I went through the Catholic Church, grew up in it, catechism, the whole 9 yards, and had arguments with the pastor and with the preacher and with the nuns about certain things that they were doing that I couldn't find in the Bible. And they said, well, that's the Catholic Church. I'm like, what gave you the right to change that? And I was a little firecracker when I was younger. And so I took my Bible and I just began studying it on my own. That was it. I didn't have TV and radio and all this stuff. I was a truck driver. I used to haul the U.S. mail up and down to Tampa and back to Jacksonville. So, and I read and I read and I read, and I came to the conclusions. The conclusions I came to were from reading the Bible. The conclusions that I understand, pre-trib and all that, came from the Bible, not from anybody else's head. I suggest that you get into your Bible, study it, and spend time with your Creator. That is the Word of God. The Word became flesh. When you hold the Bible, you are holding Jesus in your hand. And everything He wants to tell you is right there. And boy, does He want to tell you some stuff. And if you'll just pray to understand it, He will enlighten you. He will help you understand it. It is that simple. It's that simple to read it. It's that simple to understand it. And then the more you read it, the more you understand it, the deeper it gets and the more understanding you'll get. It just exponentially piles on top of itself until you get to the point where there is no fence anymore. You're so far in the middle of the field, you can't get to the fence anymore. You know right where you are, you know right what you want, and you know where you want to go when it all goes down. It's that simple. All right, we'll chat with you again later.